The year is 1567. The king of Sweden became convinced his closest nobles were plotting to overthrow him, so naturally he had them arrested, locked away inside his own castle. But then, suddenly, in the middle of a paranoid spiral, he walked into their cells and stabbed one of them into early demise with his own hands. So, in today's Jauntily Macabre Ramble, we're gonna examine the life of a monarch who seemed to just have it all, but, he lost his grip on reality entirely, and whose reign ended with a bowl of suspiciously seasoned pea soup. So this is the unhinged reign of King Erik XIV of Sweden. Let's get into it. Erik was born in 1533, the eldest son of Gustav Vasa, the man who ripped Sweden free from Danish rule and founded the Vasa dynasty. And from the moment that he could walk, Erik was groomed to rule. And at first, he was exceptional. He became highly educated, spoke multiple languages, and excelled in mathematics, music, theology, and history. Erik very much saw himself as a future Renaissance ruler, a modern kind of ruler. At one point, he tried, but of course failed. We know that from history. Either way, he tried to court the hand of none other than Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen. Well, as you might have guessed, that didn't turn out the way he wanted to. Another important thing about his personality, he saw himself very much superior to his other siblings. He had a bunch. And why's that? You may ask, and I will tell. His mother was actually a German princess named Katarina of Sachsen-Lauenburg. And Katarina was Erik's father's, Gustav's first wife, but they didn't have any more children than Erik because she passed on. After that, Gustav Vasa married a Swedish noblewoman, and she was indeed not royal. Margareta Lejonhuvud was her name. And she would have the rest of Gustav Vasa's brood of many children. And this connection Erik felt to pure royal European blood made him feel that he was superior, more fancy, and better than his siblings. Those were the days. Nice. Another important thing to note of Erik's personality was that he believed that the universe was constantly sending him messages. How? Astrology. Erik very much believed that the stars revealed hidden enemies, secret betrayals, and divine approval of his decisions. Unfortunately though, the stars just kept telling him people were out to get him. I mean, God forbid a man has a hobby, but it might be just a little less good when you are the absolute ruler of a kingdom. Might not just be the greatest idea to let the stars and the planets decide anything, actually, when it comes to important stuff like that. But who am I to judge? Hi, just a reminder to please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the little bell. It's free for you, but it helps my channel so much. Like, it's insane. We really need it. The algorithm has gone a little cuckoo and you can help for free. Thanks so much in advance. It won't hurt. By the early 1560s, Erik's declining mental health and weird suspicions had hardened into obsessive paranoia. He had to be medicated by large quantities of opium, and during his worst episodes, his servants actually had to roll him into cold sheets, presumably to calm down the heat inside of him that caused these outbursts. No one said that medical knowledge back in the olden times was any good at all. No. Soon he became convinced that Sweden's powerful Sture family were actively conspiring against him. The Sture family was very much older and nobler, and thus light years fancier than the very new Vasa dynasty that was basically in its infancy at this point. So it should come to no surprise that some of the members of this Sture family would look down on Erik and feel some sort of way about how he was ruling things. So it's actually quite safe to say that at least sometimes Erik's fears and paranoia weren't entirely unfounded. I mean, this was a monarchy, aristocrat, kingdom of the Middle Ages. People were gonna be backstabbing other people. But all this, of course, only fed his downward spiral. And naturally, Erik would begin spying on said nobles, interrogating courtiers, and withdrawing from public life. Witnesses described violent mood swings, periods of manic tantrums, followed by fasting, isolation, and obsessive prayer. And in all this, he slept very little, ate even less, and trusted no one. So came the fateful day in May 1567. Erik finally acted on his fears. He ordered several members of the noble Sture family arrested and imprisoned them at Upsala castle. There they were interrogated, held under guard, and were completely at the king's mercy. And after all that, Erik's mental state collapsed even more than usual, I suppose. In the middle of what historians believe was a full-on psychotic break, the king personally entered the prisoners' quarters. At first, he seemed almost remorseful. He handed Svante Sture a letter asking for forgiveness. But these warm feelings didn't last long, as expected from this erratic king. Because not long after, he turned his heel and promptly entered a different cell, where he stabbed Svante's son, Nils Sture, with his own hands, thrusting a dagger into Nils, and then asked his confused guards to continue with the stabbing to make sure that poor Nils was well and truly shuffled into the here beyond. Just as unlucky were the other Sture nobles imprisoned, including the aforementioned Svante Sture. Erik commanded his guards to actually just demise them all, and panic spread quickly through the castle. By this point, it was well and truly obvious that Sweden had a king who no longer understood reality, and a court realizing they don't have a tyrant problem. They have a completely uncontained psychological emergency, wearing a nifty, sparkly crown, I would guess. After the random and chaotic killing spree, Erik lost every bit of sanity and control over himself, at least what was left of it. So he did what any monarch experiencing a psychotic break would do. He fled Upsala castle and ran himself into the surrounding forest. And for 3 days, no one knew where the heck the King of Sweden had gone. And when finally the search party found him, he was unrecognizable. Erik had traded his clothing for filthy peasant rags. He hadn't slept or eaten, and in a complete daze he had loitered around in the forest, convinced that his own guards were assassins hired to come and dispose of him. And by some crazy reason, after his return, Erik managed to deteriorate even further. How? He started to wander around the castle halls, muttering, crying, and refusing food. He tried to give away some very expensive possessions and denied that he was king. He believed that he had already been dethroned and that his brother Johan was now king. And since everyone could see that the king wasn't gonna come to his senses anytime soon and just seemed to spiral beyond what would be humanly possible day by day, a regency council quietly took control behind the scenes. As they should. And in the midst of all this chaos, Erik went and put the last nail into his royal coffin. He married for love. And his new queen was none other than his long-term mistress, Karin Månsdotter. Karin was a girl of common birth, if you want to say that. Nothing noble about her. At the age of only 14, she worked at a local tavern, where she gained lots of male attention for being a very, very pretty girl. The owner of that tavern, though, was a bard or musician, what you want to say, called Erik XIV. And Erik was frequently invited to the castle, where he would show off his prettiest barmaids. And on one such occasion, Karin came along, and she immediately catched the eye of Erik. She was described as his ideal woman. Plump, rosy cheeks, long, blonde hair, and lively blue eyes. She would even be described by Erik as his angel of light. Things moved fast, and soon enough, she moved into the castle, and Erik spared no expenses. He even had himself a little My Fair Lady moment, if you will. He dressed her in the finest clothing, gave her education, and taught her the ins and outs of royal etiquette. But most importantly, she actually seemed to be the one person that he wholeheartedly trusted. Everyone around Erik would say that she was the only person who could calm him down in his manic or paranoid outbursts. So to Erik, she was the comfort and stability that he actually needed. But to the nobility, she was cold hard proof that the king had truly, well and truly, fallen off the deep end. And any remaining support that he would have had evaporated. Poof! To no one's surprise, finally in 1568, Erik's brothers Johan and Karl led a rebellion. Very quickly, Erik was captured, formally deposed, and imprisoned together with Karin and their children. At first, his captivity with Karin was very humane. They were housed in gilded cages, moved about from one castle to the other, kinda just like, imprisoned vacation, staycation thing, I guess. But over time, it would all become harsher and more isolated. After a while, Erik and Karin were separated, since the new king Johan was afraid of any new offspring who could lay claim to the throne. And with that in mind, Karin was moved to Åbo Castle in Finland, where she would live for the rest of her days. But this wasn't actually any kind of downgrade for Karin. I mean, she got to live in a nice castle, and Johan was generous and gifted her with many necessities and money and her own household to do things for her and keep her company. She was also, of course, free to roam outside of her new castle prison. Erik, on the other hand, was left in solitary confinement with constant monitoring, absolutely no real freedom. And as 9 whole years passed, Erik just turned into a liability that refused to quietly disappear. So it was terribly convenient for the new king Johan when in 1577 Erik suddenly became violently ill and shuffled off his mortal coil shortly after. Officially, the cause was natural, but centuries later, scientists and those people did some tests on his remain and found very high levels of arsenic. Legend for hundreds of years was actually that he had been poisoned by a bowl of pea soup. And with the new evidence of all that arsenic, well, let me know down below what you think of that. Either way, this was all a quiet end to what many saw as a very inconvenient man. So yeah, let me know what you thought of all this down below. Was Erik a mad king? A tragic victim of untreated mental illness? Or just simply a ruler whose paranoia and psychotic outbursts made him just too dangerous to keep ruling? Maybe it was all three. Thank you so much to my Patreon members and my YouTube members. You mean the world, you're amazing. Giant hugs to you, and yeah, without you I wouldn't be able to have this channel running. You're amazing. And with that, stay hydrated, stay amazing, but most of all, stay morbid, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye!